This is the 1990 movie called The Big Man. It was called Crossing the Line in the US. It's oh fucking hell, 1990 British sports drama directed by David Leland. Stars Liam Neeson, Joanne Whalley and Billy Connolly. And a brief synopsis: set in a once prosperous mining community which is now a ghost town, an unemployed miner, Neeson, who's Danny Schooler, was imprisoned for his part in the miners' strike. He's just been released from jail, and in order to make some money, he begins to take part in knuckle boxing fights. He's got 2 kids, and he's married to Beth, played by Kilmer, Joey Wally Kilmer. And I saw this movie some time back. I think it's a really terrific movie. Lots of great actors in it, including Ian Banner, who's the guy with the money who wants to set up these illegal bare-knuckled fights. We've also got Hugh Grant plays Gordon. Billy Connolly is Frankie, and Pat Roach from Alvidas and Pets plays Billy, and there's a few other familiar faces as well. So let's get to it. Anyway, Danny goes to the pub where he's well known, quite friendly. But also there is this hoodlum called Mason, played by Bannon, who wants to get a prize fight, a bare knuckle prize fight set up in Glasgow. So he gives a few quid to Billy, played by Roach, to cause a little bit of a kerfuffle inside the pub, which then draws the attention of Danny, who then, because he can't back down, suggests that they sort it out outside, and of course he knocks out Billy quite easily, and then he is approached by Mason about business in this bare-knuckled show. He then goes home to wife Beth, loaded, and there's a great little scene between Joanne Whalley Kilmer and Liam Neeson whilst when he arrives home, about the sort of enthusiasm and joy that Danny is feeling as he sees a way out of the depression of being out of work with no money, even if it is doing the sort of thing that's not that pleasant, that's beating the shit out of somebody. Another great scene involving Danny and Mason. Danny's now been training in a ring, and there's a great scene about motivation, will to win, and belief, ended by Mason when he says, I can't remember what he says, but it's worth watching. I'll try and get that back. Right, as I said, Mason and Danny at a boxing ring, and they take it upon themselves to comment about the slogans, out of pain comes glory. They reflect on beliefs, and then there's this really great quote to end it. Danny says, after telling Mason about the only fight he lost was a hiding that his father gave him. And Mason hears Danny say, if you can't fight for the right reasons, keep your hands in your pockets. And then Mason says, for a man who's unemployed, you still got a taste for luxuries. Very interesting. Highly disturbing scene if you're affectionate to pets and dogs, is when a dog's thrown in the river from a bridge. The plot moves on to the real reason why this bare knuckle show is about to happen, and it revolves around the murky side of Glasgow, and that's the drugs industry, illegal drugs industry, heroin, and Jimmy gets a first-hand look at it when he's with his boss, and as he's about to sort of throw it in, he gets his conscience gets pushed once again by the notion that he is really fighting to erase or reduce the drug problem here within the city, particularly with young children, young adolescent children. Mason makes a convincing case. Aside from that, he also spots his wife in a nightclub with her new boyfriend, and the dog miraculously reappears outside his room, outside the hotel room, having miraculously escaped from the river after being thrown in by Connolly. The politics hits home hard a little later when Beth, still at her affluent parents, brings home her new boyfriend, played by Hugh Grant, and the amount of food that's laid out on this table is beyond excessive, and it hit home to Beth what difference this scenario is with what she experienced with her husband at the time of the miners' strike. As we witness the extravagance of the meal, the camera pans to Beth, who's starting to get bored, and you sense that she's turning over in her mind that this is not what she wants in life, and that she'd rather be back with Jimmy, albeit with all their problems, because at least he's alive, and these lot are really sort of sedentary to the point of being dead. We flip then to Danny ploughing through his last meal with Mason looking on before he gets ready to go to this mystery location for the bare knuckles fight, the illegal fight. And as it approaches, we see Danny climbing into this huge Rolls Royce with his dog in hand, and then we go to the location where there's a huge quantity of fanatical betting people waiting for the action to begin. It sort of sums up the movie right, left and centre really, and it has to be said that I'm warming to this movie on my third view, much as I did when I originally saw it. In a funny sort of way, it reminded me of as we become one of the spectators. It reminded me of a similar experience that I had when I was in Bali, when I went to a sort of event, an illegal event where two cocks were fighting, and the fanaticism of the audience in terms of betting on which cock would actually slit the throat of the other cock and capture the winning prize. And it really does sum up succinctly, really, how the male species gravitates to this type of activity, because we're basically really sort of educated animals who thrive when we're stripped of that education, where we can become Neanderthal in many ways. And in fact, a lot of behaviour by males, the male Homo sapien, epitomises how we want to cut down other people, how we want to trample all over other people, how we are obsessed with being more powerful than our neighbour or getting one over. And you know, one can recall, I'm sure, from every one's lives, this sort of machoism that really arrived in spades as we hit sort of mid-adolescence, and we were subjected to teen games, and then to the adult room that was called a bar, and how alcohol and the consumption of alcohol just incited more of this animalistic behaviour. And even today, boxing, even with its rules, is still a ruthless, money-grabbing sport, where the two gladiators are, although they're well paid, are still throwing themselves into the ring at some risk of personal injury. And it's a barbaric act which poses as sport, sophisticated sport. The fight itself is basically an opportunity for us lay people to witness the viciousness and sadistic desire of one person wanting to inflict as much damage as possible on the other. And what I find quite even more fascinating is the reaction of the viewers, the crowd, and the heckling and the desire to see more blood. And after we've had about 10 minutes of both men hitting the shit out of each other, the crowd move in, the crowd become more closer to the action, restricting the ability to for the fighters to perhaps turn away as they would do in a ring and get a bit of respite. Here it's just not going to happen. And when one fighter is down, they have 30 seconds to recover, or they can suffer a further beating, you know, which I suppose in professional boxing is equivalent to the 10 knockdown rule. But there's also, of course, a minute between rounds. Here there's no rounds. There's no minute between rounds. It's just a 30-second break to catch your breath, and then you're back in there. It's absolutely dreadful, really. The aftermath basically delves into the sort of humanity of Jimmy, and when he learns about his opponents being in hospital and may have lost his sight, he becomes extremely distraught. And there's a very powerful scene when he goes to the hospital and the two of them have exchanged words. Is the guy that he knocked out shows no sort of malicious thought, rationalise it as a job, and feels no sort of hatred towards Danny, not Jimmy. And Danny is full of anger at being caught up in this monstrous sort of gig where two rich guys use two other guys, a bit like gladiators, fighting in the ring in the Roman Empire, whilst the elites look on and speculate on who's going to win and who's going to die. And Mason Corwell, in tandem with a third guy, but the third guy is in Spain and has welched on their agreement, and so the fight was basically to decide who is going to murder the guy who basically ran off with lots of dosh from a freeway agreement. And of course the person who lost the fight, Corville, he then has to set up a gunman to go to Spain and finish off the guy that betrayed the group. It's all very high powered sort of mafia style stuff.